Hi, I'm Seren. My sister looked me in the eyes and said, "This table is for family." Then she laughed, as if that seat didn't hold years of silence I'd swallowed to stay in their circle. They thought I'd sit quietly, again, pay the bill, shrink, smile. But that night, something snapped. They had no idea what was coming when I finally said no. Want to know what really happened when I stood up from that chair and didn't sit back down? The exiled seat. I should have said no. I told myself that the entire drive over. With both hands clenched on the steering wheel, I rehearsed a dozen ways to back out. Fake an emergency, pretend I had COVID, claim the car broke down. But I didn't. Because the guilt in my mother's voice wasn't something I could shake off like dust from my coat. So there I was, in front of the Dominion Flame, a steakhouse so upscale even the air smelled smug. I stood outside for a second too long. The late summer heat of Austin hadn't fully settled into evening yet. My palms were already damp, heart tapping like a warning. I could still leave, get back in the car, drive home, pretend I never saw her text. But I didn't. The maitre d' recognized the name and led me in. And there they were, already seated at a long table near the center, under a massive chandelier. I saw my cousin Darian first, his grin spreading like oil across his face. Elira sat next to him, in a white dress a size too small and a laugh a pitch too high. My mom was sandwiched between two aunts, nodding politely. No one noticed me for a full 3 seconds. Then Darian did. "Look who finally decided to show up," he called out, his voice loud enough to turn heads. "I was starting to think we weren't important enough for her anymore." I forced a smile. "Good evening." I took a step toward an empty chair at the end of the table, trying to sit without making a scene. But Elira's voice sliced in. She said, shaking her head with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "That seat's for Uncle Leo, you know, family." The word dropped like ice water down my back. Darian leaned forward, pushing his chair slightly, closing off the space. "Yeah, we're packed in tonight. You might want to grab something from the other table over there." He gestured behind me without even glancing. It wasn't a joke. The others weren't laughing. My mother looked away. I just stood there. For a second, I forgot how to breathe. I scanned the table, every chair filled with people I used to build pillow forts with, cry in front of, love. And now, not even room for me to sit. My pulse thudded hard in my ears. But I didn't say anything, not yet. I turned, walked toward an empty table, and dragged a chair back across the floor. The screech of metal legs over marble echoed too loudly, but I didn't stop. I set it just beside their table, not quite in, not quite out. Close enough to hear them, too far to be part of them. I sat down, ordered a black coffee, and folded my hands in my lap. My shoulders itched with the weight of every sideways glance in the room. The waiter gave me a curious look. I gave him nothing back. Across from me, Elira raised her glass. "To togetherness," she said with a smirk. "Some of us value it." They all laughed. Not everyone, but enough. Darian nudged someone and whispered something I didn't catch. I watched the condensation on my glass beat up and run like little escapes. I kept my face unreadable, because if I blinked too long, I'd give myself away. It had always been this way. When we were kids, I was the quiet one, the bookworm, the moody cousin who didn't want to play dress-up or talk about boys. I didn't drink in high school, didn't party in college. I built a life instead. Quietly, carefully, one piece at a time, and they never noticed until they needed something. Now that I'd built a company worth 7 figures and landed in a Forbes local feature, I was suddenly interesting again. But not for who I was, only for what I could give. They didn't say that, of course. No one ever says it out loud. That would be too honest. Instead, they play games like this, like musical chairs with dignity. I watched as they passed bread, laughed at stories, clinked glasses. No one asked me anything. No one cared what I'd been up to. The table might as well have been made of glass, and I was the smudge they refused to wipe clean. Then came the moment that sealed it. Darian made a joke, something about some people forgetting their roots once they have a little cash. And Elira, not missing a beat, threw her head back and laughed. She turned toward me, mid-laugh, eyes locking with mine. And she didn't flinch. She smiled wider. That wasn't laughter. That was a challenge. I sat still, my jaw clenched tight behind a calm expression. I took a sip of my coffee and let it burn on the way down. Better that than letting them see how much it all still hurt. This wasn't awkward. It was war. A plate full of expectations. I didn't flinch. Not on the outside. But inside, I felt something shift. Like a thread pulled too tight, finally starting to snap. Darian's jab, Elira's laugh, that look in her eyes. It was all part of the same script I'd seen before. But this time, I wasn't watching from the wings. They'd shoved me center stage, and I knew my role. The outsider with the wallet. A waiter appeared with a smile that felt rehearsed. Would you all like to see the dinner menus now? Darian sat up straighter and clapped his hands once. Let's do it, I'm starving. Menus were handed out like invitations to a performance. Oversized, leather-bound, designed to impress. Darian opened his dramatically, glancing toward Elira as if they were co-stars in a show only they understood. This place has Wagyu, right? He asked, flipping pages like he already knew the answer. I'll take that, medium rare, and let's do lobster too. He barely paused before shutting the menu with a thud. Oh, and a bottle of that Cabernet we had at Dad's birthday. Elira giggled. You're so predictable. But yeah, get one for the table. My eyes hadn't left my menu. Not because I was reading, but because I didn't want to meet their stares. I already knew what was happening. They hadn't asked me what I wanted. They didn't care. This wasn't about food. It was a declaration of entitlement, of assumption. I was the designated provider, seated on the fringe, yet expected to bankroll the entire fantasy. I glanced up and caught Darian's smirk. You good with that, Serene? He asked, voice smooth like he was doing me a favor by including me in the decision. I blinked once. Sure, sounds festive. He grinned wider. Knew you'd be cool. You always come through. Elira turned to the others. We should make tonight count. It's not every day we're all together. Rachel chimed in. Yeah, and if we're gonna celebrate, we better do it right. Might as well make it memorable. The rest of the table murmured in agreement. One of my uncles chuckled. Long as someone picks up the check. I froze, just for a second. And then came the kicker. Harlan leaned forward, his voice louder than necessary. Oh, come on. It's not like Seren can't handle it. She makes more than the rest of us put together. Laughter bubbled up around the table. Not loud, just enough to sting. That's right, Rachel added. She's our little tech queen now. Let her treat us, Elira said, tilting her head like it was the most natural thing in the world. That's what family's for, right? My fingers curled slightly under the tablecloth. They weren't even pretending to be subtle anymore. What started as snide remarks had evolved into a full-on group performance. The room was dim, but I could see every glint of satisfaction in their eyes, like they'd rehearsed this and couldn't wait to hit their lines. I could have said something then. I could have called it out. But I didn't. Instead, I gave a half smile and raised my coffee cup like a toast. To family, I said. They clinked their glasses, celebrating the punchline, not realizing I was rewriting the story in real time. Because I wasn't mad. Not yet. What I felt was precision. They thought they had me pegged. That I'd sit quietly, take the hits, and pay for the pleasure. They had no idea what I was planning. The rest of dinner passed in fragments. Appetizers arrived. Crab cakes, truffle fries, foie gras. The conversation blurred, all surface-level chatter, with undercurrents of comparison, judgment, and performance. No one asked about my work. No one mentioned the startup I'd sold. No one said my name unless it followed a joke. I sat there, quietly calculating, watching them pour wine, pass plates, make toasts. They weren't trying to connect. They were trying to impress each other and punish me at the same time. And I let them. Because the more they talked, the more obvious it became. They weren't just trying to make me pay the bill. They were making me earn the right to be here. I heard Rachel laugh again. Let's not skip dessert. Get the sampler. Seren's got it. Darian raised an eyebrow. Yeah, let's do 3 of each. Might as well go all in. The waiter nodded, not even checking with me. The assumption was complete. I took a long breath. They thought they were clever. Let them think that. Let them dig the hole. I'd be the one handing them the shovel. The one who never spoke up. I watched them revel in their own performance. Every clink of a glass. Every fake laugh like a metronome keeping time for their manipulation. They thought they were winning. But what they didn't see was me scanning the table. Not for food, not for kindness. I was searching for one face. The only one I'd come here for. My mother. Maeve sat near the middle, her back straight, smile soft, eyes darting to the candles, the ceiling, the waiter. Anywhere but me. I waited for her gaze, a glance, even just the brush of concern. Nothing. She looked past me as if I were a shadow on the wall, like I wasn't even here. And that's when the ache twisted deeper. Not because they were laughing, not because they were greedy, but because the one person who knew better was silent. She always had been. The memory hit hard, so vivid I could almost feel the fabric of my childhood dress again. I was 11. Darian had poured orange soda in my backpack at my own birthday party. Said it was because I acted better than everyone. I had run to the kitchen, crying, hands sticky, notebooks ruined. Maeve had pulled me aside, smoothed my hair, and said, "Sweetheart, boys tease the girls they're threatened by. Just let it go. No correction, no defense, no apology for me, just a request to be quiet." And I had listened. Back then, I thought it was strength. Now, I knew better. The plates were being cleared when Elira's voice broke through the hum. "You know what I've noticed?" she said, brushing imaginary crumbs off her lap. "Self-made women are always the coldest, like they forget how to connect." I didn't look up. I didn't need to. The comment wasn't about women in general. It was about me. Darian laughed, of course. Rachel muttered, "Amen to that." I let the words hang there like smoke. Slowly, I raised my eyes and looked at my mother again. She shifted in her seat. Her lips moved just enough to say, "They didn't mean it like that." I blinked, once. And that was it. She wasn't defending me. She was excusing them, again. She whispered it low, like she didn't want to stir the pot, like my feelings were a disruption to the balance she kept trying to maintain. And in that moment, I felt something crack. Not loud, not messy, just final. There would be no scene, no shouting, but something was leaving me. Something that had tried, for years, to believe this family could change. My fork was still in my hand, but I didn't touch the dessert they'd ordered for the table. I wasn't hungry. I was unraveling, quietly, intentionally. I drifted back into memory again. Not a moment, but a pattern. The dozens of times my mother had asked me to be the bigger person, to let it slide, to not make things worse. It was always about keeping the peace, even if that peace cost me every piece of myself. I stared into my half-empty coffee, the bitter edge still clinging to the rim. A waiter passed, offering another round of wine. I didn't speak, just raised my hand in a soft decline. I heard them still laughing, heard my name mentioned under someone's breath. I didn't care enough to track who it was. I wasn't sitting at their table. I wasn't even sitting in their reality anymore. In my mind, I began stepping back, not from the table, not from the room, but from the expectations that had caged me my entire life. For the first time in years, I saw Maeve not as mom, but as a woman who had chosen silence, again and again. And no matter how much I'd wanted her protection, I could no longer excuse her absence just because she came wrapped in motherhood. They joked, they drank, they piled desserts into each other's plates, and I sat still, letting the numbness wash in. Not to escape, but to prepare. Because while they laughed, I was changing. While they circled the same game, I was stepping off the board. And when I looked at my mother one last time, her eyes finally found mine. She blinked, startled, like she hadn't expected me to still be watching. I didn't smile. I didn't flinch. She chose silence again. And now, I choose something else. The mask and the ultimatum. I didn't say a word. Just held my mother's gaze long enough for her to understand. I wasn't waiting anymore. The silence between us stretched for maybe 2 seconds. Then I stood and quietly excused myself, stepping away from the table as naturally as I could. I made my way to the lounge area off the main dining floor, where the lights were lower, the music softer, and the illusion of peace a little more believable. It wasn't about needing air, it was about not suffocating. I sat near a tall window facing Congress Avenue. The view was blurred by the reflection of the chandelier behind me. People passed by outside, free and unaware. For a brief second, I envied their anonymity. Footsteps approached. I didn't look up, I already knew. "Hey," Darian said, voice smooth like always. "You okay?" I didn't answer. He took the liberty of sitting across from me like we were old friends catching up over drinks. "You know how they are," he began, tone casual. Loud, dumb, a little tactless, but harmless. I kept my eyes on the street. He waited a beat, then leaned in. "Look," he said, lowering his voice. "Between you and me, this whole dinner, it wasn't just about catching up. You probably figured that out already." "No kidding. But here's the thing," he continued, flashing that tired charm he used on women and investors alike. "You showing up tonight? That meant a lot. To Mom, to the family. They were never going to say it, of course. They're all too proud for that. But they notice, especially after, well, you know, the Forbes piece." There it was. He gave me a tight-lipped smile. "You've done well for yourself, Saran. We all see it." I said nothing. "And tonight? It's just a dinner. One bill. It's not about the money. It's about the gesture." He smiled like he'd just solved world peace. "You pay, we laugh, we drink. We toast to you. Everyone walks away feeling good. Win-win." I turned to face him fully. "You mean I pay, and they feel good?" He blinked, but the smile didn't falter. "Semantics." I leaned back in the chair. "So that's the plan, huh? Hand me the script and hope I play along." He chuckled, low. "Come on, Saran. Don't turn this into some kind of protest. It's family. We razz each other. We lean in. We cover when someone can't. We're all adults. You're not gonna let a couple offhand jokes ruin the night, are you?" That word again. Family. Funny how it was always weaponized when they wanted something. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't shift in my seat. "I'm not here to ruin anything," I said evenly. "But I'm also not here to fund a show I wasn't cast in." He exhaled sharply, eyes narrowing just a little. "Okay," he said, dropping the smile. "If that's how you feel." There it was, the pivot. The moment charm slid into pressure. "But just know," he continued, "if you don't step up here, it won't go unnoticed." I stared at him. "Is that a threat?" I asked. "No," he said too quickly. "It's just reality. This family talks, always has. You know how Mom is? You know how the others are. I'm trying to protect you, honestly. From the narrative, the narrative. If you refuse to do something this small," he added, "it gives them permission to say a lot worse." That was the moment I realized. He wasn't here to talk. He was here to control the fallout. I smiled, slow and careful. "You don't get to build a fire under me," I said, "and then ask why I'm sweating." He sat back like I'd slapped him. I leaned forward slightly. "And if you think I'm the kind of woman who pays hush money in the form of cheesecake and lobster, you're not nearly as smart as you think." He blinked. For the first time all night, Darian actually blinked. Then he glanced away, adjusting his shirt collar like it had suddenly gotten tight. "I'm trying to keep things from getting messy," he muttered. They already are, I said softly, but not because of me. He stood, hands on his hips, looking like he wanted to say more. Instead, he nodded once, sharper than necessary, and walked back to the table. From where I sat, I could see his shoulders tense. He rejoined the others with a forced laugh and some comment I didn't catch. I saw Elira turn toward him, her smile faltering. Maeve reached for her glass. Something was different. I hadn't won. But I'd broken the script. When even love isn't enough. I stayed in the lounge long after Darian returned to the table. The air felt heavier now. The distant clatter of forks and fake laughter didn't reach me the same way anymore. I was untethered from them, like a balloon they let go, expecting it to come drifting back. But I wasn't floating. I was watching. That's when my phone buzzed. I glanced down. It was her. Mom, calling. For a second, I just stared at the screen. My finger hovered over the green button, then pulled away. I let it ring twice more before I answered. Serene! Her voice cracked softly, barely louder than a whisper. Sweetheart, are you okay? My throat tightened. She sounded like she used to, on those rare nights when I had the flu, or after Dad left and I cried into her lap. She sounded like the mom I used to believe could fix anything. I know tonight was hard, she said, pausing. They can be a lot, but they're not bad people. They just don't always know how to handle your success. You've always been strong, stronger than them. I leaned back in the chair, eyes on the ceiling now. Is that what this is? I asked quietly. Me being punished for doing well? No, she said quickly. Don't twist my words, baby. I'm saying, you're not like them. You've got the backbone. That's why I knew you'd handle this better than they would. She meant it as a compliment, but all I heard was surrender. She was asking me to carry the weight again, wrap it up, swallow it down, and be the better person. Still, for a moment, I let myself believe her. Maybe she really was trying. Maybe this was her way of saying she saw me now, not as an ATM or a black sheep, but as her daughter. Maybe. After the call ended, I didn't move. I just stared at the dim chandelier above me, the light fracturing slightly through a small crack in the glass. Like everything beautiful in this family, it was polished, but broken. By the time I got home, it was past midnight. I didn't even bother turning on the lights. I set my phone on the kitchen counter and poured myself water, my mind replaying her words again and again. You've always been strong. That's why I knew you'd handle it. She hadn't apologized. She hadn't acknowledged her silence. But she'd called. And that had meant something, hadn't it? I went to bed thinking maybe I'd call her back in the morning. Maybe I'd invite her over. Maybe we could start from a quieter place. But morning had its own plans. My phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't a call. It was a message. Mom. Seren, don't make this about you. Think of the family's name. Just help them out this once. That was it. One sentence. And every fragile piece of hope I had been clinging to shattered with it. Not because she asked for help, but because she said, don't make this about you. As if I was being dramatic. As if their cruelty, their laughter, their constant belittling was just a moment I had blown out of proportion. She didn't call to mend anything. She called to soften me up. The tears didn't come right away. Not out of pride. There was just nothing left in the tank. My chest was heavy, but my eyes stayed dry. I opened the message, read it twice, then slowly typed my response. I'm not your scapegoat, not anymore. I hit send. No punctuation, no room for misreading. I set the phone down, stepped away from the kitchen and into the hallway, each footstep quieter than the last. The emotional cord had snapped, not with a scream, but with a silence I no longer feared. I was done asking to be understood. Now I would make myself clear. Smile for the camera, I had made myself clear. At least, I thought I had. But clarity doesn't mean people will listen. It just means they'll find a new way to pretend they didn't hear you. I was still in the hallway, leaning against the cool wall, when my phone lit up again. A new text. Elira. Hey, I just wanted to say I'm really sorry if tonight felt weird. I know things got awkward. I still love you. You know that, right? No punctuation at the end. No ownership of what she'd done. Just vague softness wrapped in sugar, and wrapped again in self-preservation. I stared at the screen for a moment, letting the message sit there like a cheap peace offering. Weird. That's what she called it. I didn't reply. Not yet. Something about it didn't sit right. The tone was off. Too polished. Too rehearsed. I locked my phone and stood up straight, already planning to leave. But curiosity got the better of me, and as I walked slowly back toward the dining area, I opened Instagram. A notification popped up. Elira.ray tagged you in a story. I tapped it. It was a boomerang clip, one of those cheerful little loops. The table, laughing, glasses raised, everyone smiling like it was the best night of their lives. Caption: Family over everything. I looked closer. The video had been taken earlier, just before dessert. I remembered that moment, because it was the exact second I'd gotten up to leave for the lounge. I was in the frame, kind of. You could see my elbow, half my shoulder, cut right at the edge. Like an afterthought, someone forgot to crop properly. She'd tagged me, but carefully angled the video to crop me out visually. I was there, but I wasn't. It was surgical. A curated illusion. That was never an apology. It was a setup. Text me sweetly, post me silently. It wasn't reconciliation. It was branding. I was being used as a prop in a narrative where they looked like the inclusive, loving, messy but adorable family, and I was just the blurry ghost who never fit in frame. I took a breath. It didn't steady me, it only stoked the fire. No more backing down, no more be the bigger person. I wasn't interested in size, I was interested in truth. I walked back to the table slowly, with a calm they didn't recognize on my face. Elira noticed me first. Her expression tightened just a fraction before she replaced it with a smile. That same stage smile I'd seen since we were kids. The cameras on, behave smile. She opened her mouth to speak. I didn't give her the chance. If anyone here thinks I'm just here for your highlight reel, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear, but not loud enough to startle. Let me make this very clear. I pulled out my own phone, held up her Instagram post. I am not your accessory. Her mouth opened, but I didn't stop. You want me cropped out of your life? Do it honestly. Don't tag me for optics. Don't pretend you reached out when all you did was hide your insult behind a filter. Maeve whispered my name, like she was trying to calm a dog. Darian leaned forward. Serene, don't do this here. Oh? I turned to him. Where should I do it, Darian? At your next wine tasting? Or maybe during the next group text where you all pretend I'm too tense to be invited? No one said anything. I'm done playing quiet. I'm done making everyone comfortable while I bleed under the table. I sat down, slowly, in the chair I had dragged earlier. Not a full seat at the table, just close enough to remind them I'd never really left. The silence that followed felt deeper than anything anyone had said all night. Elira stared at her phone like it had betrayed her. Darian's jaw clenched. Maeve looked down, twisting her napkin into knots. And I didn't flinch. I wasn't background anymore. I was about to become the plot twist. This bill comes with a receipt. Not with screaming, not with a grand gesture, but with the kind of stillness that makes people nervous. The waiter returned, holding the leather-bound check holder like it was a crown waiting to be placed. He didn't hesitate, didn't glance around the table. He placed it directly in front of me. It landed like a gavel. For a beat, no one said anything. Then, Darian broke the silence, his tone all smug nonchalance. You got this, right? He said, stretching his arms behind his head. It's nothing for you. There it was, the trap, the moment they'd all been circling toward like vultures dressed in designer labels. I let my hand rest on the bill, didn't open it right away. I just looked around. Their expressions flickered. Rachel, with her perfected Instagram smile. Elira adjusting her napkin like she wasn't staring. My mother still looking down. Her glass now just a stem, clutched in trembling fingers. Then I opened it. $3,247. Wagyu, lobster, truffles, vintage wine, double desserts, and not a single thing I had ordered. I inhaled once, slow and shallow, then exhaled through my nose. They thought silence meant surrender. They forgot silence can be strategic. I closed the bill, slow and deliberate. Then I reached across the table and slid it gently in front of Darian. I didn't say anything, not yet. He blinked down at it, confusion flickering for half a second before his face tightened. "What's this?" he asked, though we both knew the answer. I finally spoke. "Oh, you thought I was covering this. That's cute." His jaw clenched. "You're serious?" he said, voice low. Elira leaned forward, eyes sharp. "Come on, Seren. This isn't the time for theatrics." Rachel added, "Yeah, we all agreed this was kind of your night. You were the one who said, 'to family,' remember?" "That was before you cropped me out of your family photo," I said without flinching. Rachel looked away. Elira straightened her back. "Fine," she snapped. "We'll split it. 3 ways, but not with her. She's not family." Her voice cracked just enough on the word family to draw attention from the next table over. People turned. The energy shifted. For once, their quiet rejection wasn't behind closed doors or buried in sarcasm. It was loud, ugly, public, and the restaurant noticed. Forks stopped clinking. Chatter slowed. Someone at another table whispered, "What the hell's going on?" I stood up, slow, calm. I looked down at Elira, then at Darian, then finally at my mother, who still couldn't meet my eyes. "You keep calling me not family," I said. "Let me make it easier." I took one step back from the table. "You're right." Nobody breathed. "I don't belong here, not because I changed, but because I outgrew the script." Maeve looked up, lips parted like she was about to say my name, but I shook my head before she could. "You wanted me to sit quietly and pay for the privilege of being mistreated," I continued. "That was never family. That was theater." Darian muttered, "Don't make this dramatic." I turned toward him. "It's not drama. It's a receipt. You cashed in on me for years. This is just your balance due." And with that, I turned and walked away from the table, again. But this time, I wasn't retreating. I was leaving on purpose. I could feel their eyes on my back, the silence behind me louder than any insult they could throw. I didn't owe them noise, just distance. Family ends where dignity begins. They said I wasn't family. I finally believed them. I kept walking, but only a few steps. Just enough to let the silence hang. Just enough to give them time to realize what had really happened. The room around us hadn't moved, but something in the air had shifted, something final. There was no more chatter, no more clinking glasses or fake toasts. I turned slowly, one last time, and looked at the table. Nobody was smiling now. Darian's smirk was gone, replaced by that tight-lipped look he used when deals slipped through his fingers. "You're really going to do this?" he muttered, like I'd just embarrassed him at a board meeting. Elira's hand twitched on her wine glass. She glanced at the people around us. For once, she looked worried about how this might play. Not on Instagram, but in real life. No one backed her up. Rachel looked down, chewing her lip like she wanted to disappear. Velda had gone pale. And Maeve just sat there, frozen, still clutching her napkin like it could save her from the truth. They didn't expect me to call their bluff. I walked slowly to the end of the table, not rushing, not storming, just moving with the kind of clarity that doesn't leave room for interpretation. "You all sat here," I said, voice steady, "and decided I didn't belong." My eyes swept over the table. Darian flinched. "But what none of you ever asked was, do I want to?" That landed. I turned to Maeve, Fully now. Her shoulders looked smaller than I remembered. You knew, I said. You knew they were setting this up, and you let them. Her mouth opened, then closed. A single tear rolled down her cheek. You didn't have to defend me, but you could have noticed me. Still nothing. From the side, Velda whispered, We don't air family drama in public. I glanced at her without moving my head. You should have thought of that before posting fake apologies and cutting me out of family photos. She shut up fast. Harlan muttered something under his breath, but it didn't matter. His glare was familiar, toothless. The collapse wasn't loud. It was quieter than I imagined. A soft implosion of years of expectations finally folding under their own weight. And maybe that's what made it hit harder. I reached into my purse and pulled out $100 bill. Clean, crisp, tucked between my ID and a stick of gum. I walked to the center of the table and laid it down. This should cover the coffee, I said, and my seat. I paused, letting the sentence finish itself. Then I turned toward the exit. My heels clicked against the floor, each step louder than their silence. I didn't rush, didn't flinch, just walked, steady and whole. And then, just as I pushed the door open, I heard it. Serin! Maeve's voice. Software. Breaking. But I didn't stop walking. Because sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes what you need more than love is air, and space, and the dignity of knowing you finally chose yourself. The silence that heals. I never looked back, but I heard my name. And this time, I didn't stop walking. 2 days later, I woke up in my apartment, wrapped in a kind of stillness that didn't ache. There were no missed calls, no texts, no new voicemails, no digital breadcrumbs leading back to that table. Just me, the soft hum of the air conditioning, and the late morning sun filtering through half-closed blinds. For the first time in longer than I could remember, I wasn't bracing for the next thing, the next jab, the next demand, the next guilt-laced, I just need a little favor. The silence didn't feel empty, it felt earned. I sat up slowly. My body wasn't sore, but something deeper inside me felt reset, like I had crossed a bridge and burned it behind me, not in rage, but in necessity. Mid-afternoon, my phone buzzed once. A voice message. Maeve. I hesitated. My thumb hovered over the play button for a full minute before I tapped it. Her voice was softer than I expected. Tired. Cracked around the edges. Serene, I don't expect you to forgive me, and I'm not going to pretend I didn't make it worse. There was a pause, the sound of her breath hitching. I know they were wrong. I know I should have said something. I was scared. That's not an excuse, but if you never come back, I still love you. Click. No follow-up, no second message, just that. I didn't cry because I was broken. I cried because, for once, someone in that family didn't ask me for something. She just left the door open, quietly. I played the message again, then set the phone down, and didn't reply. Not out of anger, out of clarity. Some wounds heal with time. Others become part of the skin, like a scar you stop noticing until someone touches it. Later that night, I opened my laptop. My startup's dashboard lit up with numbers, graphs, real momentum. The work I'd built without a single favor. Every email, every investor pitch, every long night of questioning if it would all fall apart. And yet, here it was. Alive. Growing. I met my own eyes in the reflection of the screen. I didn't lose them, I whispered. I found myself. I closed the laptop and stood, walking to the kitchen where I poured a glass of wine and opened the balcony door. Austin's skyline stretched out in front of me, quiet, glowing, unaware of my family's theatrics. The kind of city that lets you disappear and reappear entirely on your own terms. Just as I took the first sip, my phone buzzed again. A message from Elira. A photo. The rest of them gathered around Maeve's backyard fire pit, smiling, toasting marshmallows. The caption read, "Real ones only, family first, I didn't open it, didn't zoom in to see who else was there. I placed the phone face down on the counter. I poured a little more wine, then walked back to the balcony and leaned against the railing. The city didn't ask me to smile. It didn't require an explanation. It just let me breathe. You can still love someone and still leave. Maybe you've been there, at a table where everyone smiles like nothing's wrong, while you sit there wondering how you became the outsider in your own family. I've been there too. And walking away wasn't easy, but it was necessary. I didn't leave out of anger. I left to protect my peace. Because family doesn't mean tolerating disrespect. Loyalty shouldn't come at the cost of your identity. It took me years to understand. You can love someone and still choose distance. You can set boundaries without guilt. And silence, when it comes from strength, not fear, is powerful. If this story hit close to home, drop a 1 in the comments, or let me know where you're watching from. If it didn't, that's okay. Tell me why. Your voice matters here. And if this message meant something to you, hit that subscribe button. There's more truth-telling to come, and I'm glad you're here for it.
John Olson is my name. I am employed at a trading company and am 49 years old. My employer is a well-known national brand. At one of its branches, I worked. The branch president called me in one day. "Son, you have a transfer order." "Really? Where are you going at this moment?" "It appears that they would like you to return to the headquarters." "I understand. After 2 years, I've just now begun to form meaningful relationships here. I know I'll miss you too, but this is a directive. You must first visit the headquarters to get to know your new employer." After 2 years, I was once again passing through the main entrance of the headquarters. It was just as spotless as usual, and I couldn't believe 2 years had passed. Even beyond the scheduled hour, I waited in a conference room at the headquarters for my new boss, but nobody arrived. After 30 minutes or so, a woman came into the room. "Mr. Olson, you have to be. My name is Mary Emerson, and I oversee HR. It's good to meet you." She merely bowed silently, not even bothering to say sorry for being late. "You know, you still have time to decline this job offer at the headquarters." "What are you trying to say?" Manager Emerson gave me a scornful laugh when I inquired. "At the headquarters, people like you are not going to cut it. Perhaps you ought to have continued to feel at ease at the lower-level branch." Her remarks gave me a migraine. What was wrong with her? "No, I'm going to give it my all at the headquarters." Emerson, the manager, gave a snort of disapproval. My return to headquarters was scheduled for 1 month later, even though I was filled with sadness. It was my first day back at the main office. During this time, I should have ideally attended some training at the headquarters, but I was too busy at the branch handling handovers and work, so I didn't have time for introductions. I was therefore a little anxious about starting work without doing any homework. I was glad to be back at the headquarters, though. Feeling conflicted, I went inside the main office. I waited for Manager Emerson in the conference room rather than going directly to the office. Today, we were meant to go to the workplace together. Manager Emerson showed up on schedule. When she saw me, she remarked, "You actually came." She appeared, for some reason, disappointed. I bowed after enduring her impolite demeanor. "I'm excited to collaborate with you. To be clear, you might not be a good fit here for someone your level. Recall that our business is among the top enterprises in the nation." "Yes, I do comprehend." Very few people are employed in the headquarters. The majority arrive at the branches. That was undoubtedly accurate. Only a small percentage of those who apply to this company are hired for the headquarters. The majority are categorized by branches. It is rare that submitting a transfer request to headquarters is successful. Working in the headquarters is therefore somewhat of a prestige signal. Well, until 2 years ago, I actually worked at the headquarters. I take it you were downgraded to the branch. It's surprising that you returned. I chose not to disclose the specifics of my transfer to the branch because it was not a result of a demotion. I looked into your past. I take it you only completed middle school. Yes, you are correct. Manager Emerson shook her head, unable to believe what I was nodding. How on earth could someone like you have ever held a position at the main office? Did you use any unscrupulous tactics? That isn't the case, though. Someone who just completed middle school could not possibly work at the headquarters without some deceit in the hiring process. Manager Emerson came up to me and was really aggressive. No, I didn't. I aced the test with flying colors. Don't make unfounded allegations, please. I'm sure I'll find something about you. It appears that I've drawn the attention of a challenging individual. My daughter is employed here as well, by the way. Oh, I see. How are you aware? Oh, right, there have been some rumors. Manager Emerson was pleased when he heard my response. Oh, really? Here, my daughter is really well known. She is extremely outstanding and my pride and joy. Manager Emerson suddenly seemed happier and escorted me to the office. I was able to finally get inside the HR department, but the situation was far from finished. I was standing in front of the HR staff during the morning assembly. I was introduced to Manager Emerson. John Olson is who I am. He will be working in our department as of right now. I'm excited to collaborate with you. The staff members clumsily gave me a bow in return. Manager Emerson then grinned. Because he dropped out of middle school, feel free to treat him like a servant. He's really only useful for that, she remarked, chuckling. I lifted my head gradually. Please take good care of me. The staff members looked about anxiously as I said this. Then, a more senior staff member hesitated to speak. Madam, what about him? How about it? The worker gave me a permission-seeking look. So it's already known. I interrupted the worker. I apologize, manager. I haven't given a decent introduction yet. John Olson, the middle school dropout, is that not sufficient? Manager Emerson continued to laugh. No, I haven't mentioned something. After saying that, I gave my business card to someone. My name is John Olson and I work as an audit officer. Kindly remember me. An auditor. Yes, I replied with a big smile. Manager Emerson's face became tense. She turned to see how others were responding. Not at all. I've never heard of anything like that. You could never work as an audit officer. How come you are so certain that isn't true? In reality, I work as an officer. Feel free to check with your superiors if you have any doubts. When I assertively stated this, Manager Emerson appeared perplexed. I was hoping to keep this a secret. After all, my job is to conduct audits. I ought to have promised everyone in advance to keep it secret. The staff members bent their heads upon hearing this. I'm so sorry. No. It's not you I'm talking about. I mean, it's natural for everyone in HR to recognize me since I was here until 2 years ago. I'm regretting my own lack of foresight. My comments appeared to relieve the staff. Why is everyone acting like he really is an audit officer? You all aren't conspiring to trick me, are you? I asked. Why would we do that? What benefit would there be in that? But Manager Emerson would not listen. How can a middle school dropout become an audit officer in a big company like ours? It's absurd. She chuckled once more. Let me explain. This is John Olson, the audit officer. He scored top marks in the entrance exam. Manager Emerson, though, chuckled. My daughter did that too. Does that mean she should be an officer right away? No, at the time. Audit Officer Olson was only 15 years old, yet he outperformed many college graduates. That's what makes it impressive. What? So he's just a bit good at studying? It's not just about studying. The audit officer was immediately effective in the sales department. He single-handedly established connections with our most important Chinese business partners from scratch. It's not an exaggeration to say that he helped make our company one of the top ones in the country. The audit officer has numerous other achievements as well. The worker was explaining my accomplishments with great passion. Although uncomfortable, it was essential to support my claims. Manager Emerson's color darkened as the staff member continued. Recognized for these achievements, he became the youngest ever appointed audit officer. At last, Manager Emerson appeared to acknowledge the reality about me. So your transfer to the branch 2 years ago was also because? Yes, it was for my auditing duties. Excuse me, but what exactly does an audit officer do? My role is to rectify any misconduct among employees. Of course, that includes investigating even the president and others. I can't go into details, but there were certain reasons for going to the branch, as I explained. Manager Emerson gave a brief bow of her head. I'm truly sorry for the numerous improprieties. Well, that's okay. Just remember not to judge or evaluate people based on their education. It benefits no one. Yes, I will take that to heart. Manager Emerson raised her head slowly after that. But why has an audit officer like yourself come to our HR department? Acknowledging that there was no escaping it, I responded. Of course, for auditing purposes. And it happens that this HR department is the subject of the audit. The HR personnel was agitated by what I said. The first person to object was then Manager Emerson. Wait, there's nothing wrong with our HR department. I see the buzzing employees calm down. I'm not saying there's a problem with the entire HR department. Then what do you mean? It means the subject of the investigation is within HR. Manager Emerson's brows knitted. You mean it's you? Manager Emerson looked surprised, her eyes widening. What have I done to deserve this? Don't say such nonsense. I've reflected on judging people by their education alone and vowed never to do it again. Of course, it's not just about that. I wouldn't be here for just that reason alone. I'll discuss this matter with you alone from here on. Everyone else, please return to your work. Following my remarks, the staff went back to work, still in a buzz. I went to another room with Manager Emerson to carry on our chat. What was that all about? With a scarlet face from rage, Manager Emerson looked at me. I was approached by the sales department manager with a concern. There's a troublesome employee in the sales department. Her name is Nicole Emerson, your daughter. Manager Emerson suddenly looked away as I said this. My daughter? What about her? She seems to have quite a few issues. She lacks common sense and knowledge, and her attitude is poor. Apparently, she also lacks any motivation to work. Exactly, I replied. Manager Emerson protested vehemently. I can't do anything about that. As her parent, I can't look after her at work. And I can't believe what the sales department manager is saying to me. She's an excellent and proud daughter. I see. So you're saying the sales department manager is spreading rumors. That's right. My daughter graduated from a well-known private university in the city. How can she lack knowledge and common sense? Are you saying we should judge based on education? No, of course not. I do believe that most people with excellent educational backgrounds are capable. So the sales department manager is wrong then. I gave a headshake. Unfortunately, it's not that simple. We didn't rely solely on the sales manager's opinion. We conducted our own investigation beforehand. Investigation. Yes, my team observed Nicole's performance. We concluded that the sales manager's concerns were valid. Emerson, the manager, started to perspire. Is that true? Yes, unfortunately. She's not suitable as an employee of our company. Manager Emerson, though, continued to hold onto her position. Even the most talented individuals can be influenced by their environment. Indeed, that might be true. I'm sure my daughter isn't getting along with her manager or colleagues. Or maybe she's too talented and is being ostracized. In such a situation, It's impossible to work properly, leading to a bad attitude. I replied by nodding. That's a possibility we can't deny. Therefore, I'm planning to transfer my daughter to this HR department. Under my guidance, she can demonstrate her true abilities. It's best for both the employee and the company to work where they're most suited. That's definitely true, Manager Emerson said with an obviously satisfied smile. Then I will tell my daughter to submit a transfer request right away. Wait, please. Manager Emerson was about to pick up the phone when I stopped her. What is it? We need to do this quickly. Indeed, it's possible that Nicole's performance has been negatively affected by her environment. That's what I've been saying, Manager Emerson said in a sour tone. However, we are considering another possibility. What is that? Another possibility is that she might not have met our company's hiring standards in the first place. Manager Emerson sat back and laughed a little. What do you mean? That would imply that there was a problem with the recruitment process. If that's true, it's a serious issue. Yes, it is. But what we suspect isn't a mistake in the process. Then what is it? We think there may have been wrongdoing. Excuse me, do you realize what you're saying? Misconduct in the recruitment process. That's impossible. Anger filled Manager Emerson's eyes. I will not tolerate any further insults to my daughter. Of course, I'm not making baseless claims. There are inexplicable facts that point to this. What are they? In the process of investigating Nicole, we discovered her level of knowledge is alarmingly low. It's doubtful she even has a college education. I pulled out some documents. Here are some materials she created in the sales department. They contain errors and typos that are hard to believe. In her conversations with other employees, doubts have been raised about her basic knowledge. Emerson, the manager, gave a snort of disapproval. That's just a matter of personal perception. Typos can be a simple mistake or a computer error. Of course, my daughter should have checked her work, but to conclude she lacks common sense from that is unfair. I gave her a piece of paper and said, "True, such errors can happen. However, Nicole has achieved something unbelievable in a certain aspect." Manager Emerson was at a loss for words as he looked at the document. For the test, my daughter studied hard and prepared for the interview. That's the result of her efforts. If so, that's commendable. But are you suggesting all that knowledge just vanished after joining the company? That's hardly conceivable, isn't it? Then what are you trying to say? She did achieve excellent results in the test. That's a fact. That's why we suspect there was misconduct. I said emphatically, even if you say misconduct, what could my daughter have possibly done? Nicole couldn't have done it alone, but a manager in HR could certainly convey test content and interview points to their daughter. Right. Manager Emerson's face became pale as I said this. There's no way I would do such a thing. It's really difficult to believe, I said, to Manager Emerson's sneer. Look, I don't know what you're trying to do as an audit officer, but do you have any evidence? Evidence, you say? Yes, you've been talking freely, but it's all just your conjecture, isn't it? Is there any evidence? I shook my head. Evidence that I told my daughter about the test content. Unfortunately, no evidence has been found. That's why I came to HR hoping to find some. But it seems that won't be possible now. Manager Emerson chortled with triumph. Don't worry, you won't find any evidence because there's no such fact. I let out a long sigh. I see. I don't want to do this, but... What? You're still planning something without evidence. We have no choice but to prove it directly. It seemed that Manager Emerson was not understanding what I was saying. So we will have Nicole retake the recruitment test, only the written exam this time. Manager Emerson's face went pale when hearing this. What? Have her retake the test? Yes, that's unnecessary. She already passed the written exam. Why does she need to retake it? Because there's a possibility that she cheated. If she really got the top scores through her own ability, She should have no problem with the new test we've prepared. It's a different test, but at a similar level. What have we done? My daughter has been working properly. Unfortunately, she doesn't seem to have the will to work. It doesn't matter if she lacks knowledge or even if she cheated her way in, as long as she works properly. If that were the case, the sales manager wouldn't have consulted us. However, she lacks the most crucial thing: motivation. Manager Emerson gave me a bitter look. So you're doing this to fire her? It's not about firing her. It's about taking appropriate action. We feel the problem lies more with you, Manager Emerson, than with Nicole. Me? Yes, if you, as the HR manager, used your position to get your daughter into the company, it's a matter of credibility for our company. We'll deal with this before it becomes public. What will you do? In the worst case, it's termination for both Nicole and you. Manager Emerson started to cry as I said this. Wait, please listen to me. What is it? Actually, I didn't want to do this. Nicole insisted, and I couldn't refuse. I thought if she failed at her job, I would resign myself. It's true, I did it. Manager Emerson was reluctantly cornered and prepared to give up on her daughter in order to rescue herself. Her ignorance was astounding. No more excuses. After a thorough investigation, we'll decide the disciplinary action for you both. Until then, you're on house arrest. Stay home and wait quietly. Manager Emerson left the organization with a dejected expression after that. Nicole, on the other hand, was told and appeared to be pleased with her early departure. She departed the business. The inquiry did in fact uncover the misbehavior. Manager Emerson had explained the test and interview procedure to her daughter. She had acted in desperation on behalf of her daughter, who was unemployed. Manager Emerson was demoted and moved to a branch, and Nicole eventually lost her job. Despite her hard work at the branch, she felt uneasy and quit because of rumors that had started to circulate. Her current income comes from odd jobs. Nicole, on the other hand, did not seek employment elsewhere and eventually was abandoned, leaving her without a place to live. In my case, I carried out more audit officer investigations. I received recognition for my achievements, and I was given the vice president position. My name is Kevin. This year, I turned 40. I work at a small-town factory near my home, manufacturing auto parts, mainly car lights. My job is to supervise temporary workers lined up on the assembly line and ensure we deliver the specified lights by the deadline. Some of these workers have issues that trouble me, and one such case is the recently joined Emily Smith. There are no problems with her work or performance. In Emily's case, it's not so much a problem as it is a concern. Emily didn't have lunch again today. I asked her, sitting in a corner of the cafeteria during lunch break. She looked up at me awkwardly. Yes, I didn't have time to buy, she said. You can leave the factory to buy some, I suggested. But wouldn't that be against the company's rules? She asked. It can't be helped. If you don't eat properly, it'll affect your work in the afternoon too, I replied. I'm sorry, but I don't have the money to buy food, she said. Again, she not only doesn't bring lunch, but she also barely has any money on her. Even as a temp, she should be making between $1,800 to $2,000 a month, including overtime. The pay might be low, but it's not so bad that she should always be struggling financially. Plus, she lives with her parents. She should have some money to spend. Hey, are you managing your money properly? I asked. And Emily, you should take more care with your appearance. She looked down as I said this. Emily had just graduated from high school, but frankly, she was unkempt. Although she seemed to bathe, it appeared she wasn't washing her company uniform properly, as it was dirty and worn out. She smelled bad, causing complaints from other temp workers. I'm sorry. I'm not allowed to use the washing machine, she explained. That can't be true. Everyone's getting upset, So please come properly dressed from tomorrow, I insisted. She nodded weakly to my words, but at that time, I didn't realize she was in a situation far worse than I could have ever imagined. These young people nowadays really lack discipline. That night, after finishing work and returning home, I grumbled to my wife Susan for dinner about Emily again. Yes, she doesn't really bring lunch, she's careless with money, and on top of that, not washing her clothes is just the worst. Don't you think? Oh, that topic again. Susan's expression clouded. Lately, I have been complaining about Emily to my wife quite a bit. She must be tired of hearing it, but Susan's reaction was unexpected. Maybe Emily is being mistreated by her parents, she said. What do you mean? I asked. I've been hearing some rumors in the neighborhood, and it got me thinking, Susan explained. She then told me about a recent rumor she'd heard. Apparently, in a family that had moved into a public housing complex, a daughter was being neglected by her parents. The family's last name is Smith. Could it be? Well, it seems that girl is her father's stepchild and the family treats her coldly, Susan said. Can you keep an eye on her for a while? Understood. I was stunned by my wife's words, but thinking about it, it explained why Emily didn't bring lunch or have any money if her parents were taking all the money she earned. Just the thought of it made me feel sick. However, I was about to witness something even more shocking. It happened on the weekend while shopping at the supermarket with my wife Susan. I coincidentally saw Emily. Come on, hurry up and walk. Stop it, Kevin. Emily was being hit by a little boy. It was more like playful punching around her waist, but she clearly didn't like it. Besides, there were a man and a woman who looked like her parents, laughing loudly as they watched. Look, that's Emily, the girl you were talking about, Susan said. No doubt about it. Excuse me, I'll go over there for a moment, I said. Wait, Kevin, Susan called out. I approached Emily. Hey, what are you doing? I asked the boy, grabbing his arm. Let go, old man, he shouted. I looked at Emily. Hey there, Emily. What a coincidence meeting you here, shopping with your family. Huh. Yes, that's right, she said, her eyes filled with fear as they shifted towards her parents, who were watching me with suspicion. Are you Emily's parents? I asked. I've always been grateful for her help. I'm Kevin, the factory manager. Oh, is that so? Her father responded with a suspicious look and a curt greeting. But then he said something astonishing. About Emily's salary. Can it be raised a bit? She even does overtime, but doesn't bring in much money. Can something be done about that? Jerk, her mother shouted. We're letting you use our daughter. Pay her more. Let go, you old jerk. The boy, whom she called Kevin, tried to shake off my hand. I released his hand. Fine, don't mess with me, he said, and ran back to his parents. Dad, beat up that old jerk, Kevin shouted. Not here. We'll deal with it later. The father laughed loudly and crudely at his son's words. What's with these people? Susan murmured beside me. She gently tugged at my clothes, a signal to move away from these people. Well, we'll be going then. See you at work, Emily, I said. Hey, think about her pay raise, will you? The father shouted after us. Ignoring the shouting boy, we walked away from the Smith family. Emily watched us leave with a longing gaze. Kevin, thank you for yesterday. The next day at work, Emily approached me. I didn't realize what you were going through. I'm sorry for any thoughtless things I've said before. I know it's embarrassing, but I couldn't do anything about it, she said, and began to slowly share her circumstances. Since her parents divorced and she was taken in by her father, Emily had always been burdened with household chores. Because of this, there were times she couldn't go to school. After middle school, she worked part-time while attending a night high school with her father's permission. At that time, she wasn't deprived of her earnings. She had to manage everything herself, but she lived relatively freely. However, everything changed after her father remarried. Her stepmother disliked her and treated her coldly, teaching Kevin, her stepbrother, to treat Emily like a servant. Her father never reprimanded the stepmother's behavior. Instead, they demanded she pay back for being raised by taking all her earnings from her part-time jobs. Her clothes and personal belongings were thrown away by her stepmother, and she was even restricted from bathing often and washing her clothes. That's why I couldn't wash my uniform freely, and it got all tattered. I'm really sorry, she concluded her story. I was speechless for a while, overwhelmed by her situation, which was worse than I could have imagined. Despite being in such a tough situation, I thought she was strong for enduring it alone, but also felt deeply sorry for her. Then I handed her something. Here, eat this if you'd like. What is this? She looked at the package I handed her with a confused expression on her face. My wife made this packed lunch especially for you. She really wants you to have it. Just give me back the empty box when you're done. No rush. Wow, your wife made this homemade lunch for me. I'm so touched, she said, tears welling up in her eyes. Trying to hold back her tears, she said in a trembling voice, "Thank you so much. Even though I've been such a burden, it's okay. Also, could you hand me your uniform over the weekend? My wife is eager to wash it for you." "Are you sure? You're doing so much for me," she responded in a tearful voice. "That's all we can do for you. And remember, if you ever want to leave your current situation, you can always talk to us." "Thank you. But what would my family say if I accepted help?" Tears streamed down her face as she tried to hold them back. "It's okay. I know someone who's an expert in these matters. We can definitely help you." I gently rubbed her shoulders to reassure her. Sobbing, she expressed her feelings. "I don't want to live in that house anymore. I want to have a normal life like everyone else. Please help me." Her pain, borne in silence for so long, resonated painfully with me. That night, the front of my house became a bit of a battleground. "Hey, where did you take Emily? Bring her out." For some reason, Emily's father came to my house demanding her return. He kept banging on the door, yelling at us inside. Susan looked at him anxiously. "Hey, are we okay?" she asked me. "We are fine. Besides, if we engage with him, our house will turn into a mess." I reassured her while holding her shoulder. Emily wasn't even here to begin with. It's a hassle that he showed up like this. For now, I've called the police, just like you said. Susan whispered to me while holding her phone. "Good, that's the right move." I smiled at Susan and took the phone from her. I then dialed a certain number. Soon after, Emily's parents were taken away by the police. "Phew, that was scary. I'm sorry for causing this." Emily's apologetic voice came through the phone. I spoke gently to her over the phone. "No, it's okay. Did you manage to get to the station all right?" "Yes, I'm on my way to the NPU you told me about," Emily replied happily. "Yes, I was the one who helped her run away from home." The reason Emily's parents came to my house was that I had advised her to leave a note implying she was heading here. I thought it would buy her some time to escape. "But are you sure I'll be accepted?" She sounded anxious. "Don't worry. Helping kids oppressed by their parents is what that NPU does." "Thank you so much." Her voice trailed as she spoke. I could sense her near tears even over the phone. "I've done what I can now. It's up to you. You have to carve out your own life. You okay with that?" "Yes, I'll be fine. You've endured your family's unreasonable treatment for so long. I'm sure you'll be okay, no matter what difficulties you face." "Yes. Oh, I've arrived. I'm going to hang up now." "All right. Take care." "Yes, thank you for everything." With those words, the call ended. I gently moved the phone away from my ear and smiled kindly at Susan beside me. "She'll be fine. She's brave enough to ask for help." Susan smiled back and gently held my hand. Later, I heard that the NPU had reported Emily's parents to the police, and they were being investigated. Her stepbrother Kevin was taken in by his father. The next day, when the employees wondered about her absence, I simply said she had moved. Years passed in the blink of an eye. Look, Kevin, we've got a Christmas card from Emily. Really? I exclaimed as Susan handed me the card. In the Christmas card, she appears posing with her husband. She is also holding a cute baby in her arms. All three were smiling happily. She says the baby girl was born healthy last year. We need to send a gift. Emily had successfully severed ties with her parents and started a new family after our intervention. We still catch up over the phone every few months. She's now a mother. She's going to be a great mom. I agree. We smiled at each other while looking at the Christmas card. Though Emily had endured tough times, she was now happily living with her new family. I'm glad I listened to her plea for help back then, and I'm profoundly grateful to Susan for her support. Watching her smile, I thought to myself, I truly wish from the bottom of my heart that she continues to lead a happy life. My name is Michael, and I'm 38 years old. I've been working as a programmer at my current company for many years. I've always enjoyed this job. I love programming and find daily fulfillment in it. Initially, there were challenges, but over time, my anxieties turned into confidence. I've come to believe that sticking with one thing for a long time is important. That's what I've always told the younger folks at work. Right now, I'm just happy to be here, so I keep going. Maybe there will be chances to move up, or maybe someone else will offer me a job. But I'm already 38, and I feel like I'll be at this company forever. I doubt there's any chance for further career advancement. That's what I was thinking when the incident happened. A new department head joined our company, a woman named Mila. She's 37, and I'd admired her for becoming a department head at such a young age. The first time I saw her, she had an aura of competence. However, she was very cold towards people. The first words Mila ever said to me were, "Are you only a middle school grad? Too dumb, aren't you?" She must have noticed that from my resume. How far back did she look? But the harassment didn't stop there. Middle school grads are a hindrance to the company. Just disappear. Even though I apologized, Mela wouldn't forgive me. The harassment got worse day by day until I wasn't even allowed to work. "You're not fit for the main office work," she said, even though this was the job I'd been doing all along. Mela wasn't willing to listen. Was it because I'm a middle school grad? But working here, I hardly ever thought about that. My education is in the past, and nowadays, no one cares about where you went to school. It's not even a topic of discussion. A week after being barred from work, Mila called me in. How does it feel to be unable to work? I felt like I was barely alive. Did Mila know that work was my passion? If she was deliberately taking it away from me, that would be the worst. She told me, "Being a middle school grad and incompetent, you're unnecessary at headquarters. Choose between being fired or demoted to a remote location." The lol. Then fire me. At that moment, I finally understood what Mela wanted. She wanted to drive me out of the company. That's why she took my work away and created an unwelcoming atmosphere for me. Thinking back, Maya was harsh on other employees who were also middle school grads. We were told every day how incompetent we were for being in headquarters. How much distress must everyone have been feeling? There were many victims besides me. Ever since Mila arrived, the company atmosphere has clearly deteriorated. It shifted from a friendly environment to one that prioritizes educational background. I remember when Mila asked me, "Why are there so many middle school grads here?" Well, I never really paid attention to it. I didn't know the educational backgrounds of my colleagues because I had no interest in it. So when she asked, all I could give was a vague response, and for that, I was scolded. It's no surprise you're not aware of it, given your incompetence. I'm sorry. Her look of disdain was infuriating. Who does Mila think she is? Could she say the Michael if she were a high school dropout? Besides, I wasn't allowed to work here anyway. If I can't do the job that gives me a sense of purpose, then there's no point in staying. Even if I were reassigned to a remote location, Mila would still be my boss. I absolutely didn't want to continue working under someone like her. Thank you for everything. You don't have to come back ever again. That's what I thought should be my line. I never want to work with someone like her again, let alone follow her orders, even if she is my boss. Mela is younger and lacks manners. There's nothing about her I respect. I completed the handover documents that day and left the company. Actually, since being harassed by Mila, I had seriously considered changing jobs. I believed that with my years of experience at this company, I could move to a different one. In fact, I had been progressing on things in secret from her. After leaving the company, I had a few places to stop by, so I quickly made my way home. After finishing my errands, I felt incredibly relieved, thinking I had finally said goodbye to that company. The next day, I got an unexpected call from Mila. Wondering what she could possibly want now made me angry, but this might be my chance to say what I've been thinking to Mila for the last time. I decided to take it positively. When I went to the company, Mila had a particularly gloomy look on her face. I wondered what was wrong, but I didn't really want to pry. What is this? Mila showed me the handover documents I had prepared the day before. Her face was very pale. Even seeing her like that, I couldn't feel worried. What's wrong? Is there a problem with these documents? I asked her calmly. Then she said, "Do you understand the meaning of all this?" Of course, I understand everything. I made it after all. There's no way I wouldn't understand something I created myself. The handover documents were about programming that I had developed. It's written in technical terms, but it shouldn't be that difficult. However, Mila seemed to be having trouble. She kept looking at the documents and making puzzled faces. Is something wrong? I asked her. I don't understand any of this at all. What are these documents? Mila threw the documents at me. I couldn't believe she treated something someone made like that. But she just kept getting angrier. You did this on purpose to make it incomprehensible for me, didn't you? That's unbelievable. Anyone working with programming should understand it. I thought you would, but it seems Mila didn't know at all. I had assumed she knew everything because she always acted so superior. I even thought she wanted to fire me to take control. But I was wrong. Mila didn't even understand the terminology, let alone programming. I started to get angry again. I was finally free from Mila and ready to start a new path, but here she was, troubling me again. You made it too complicated, so I had no choice but to call you in. If you don't understand, you should have said so earlier. I couldn't help but blurt out what I was really thinking. It's her fault for not knowing, always acting high and mighty. It's not my problem if she gets upset. This is the trouble with people who are too proud. Does she even realize what her role as department head entails? Whether you're a superior or a subordinate, if something is unclear, you should ask. But Mila probably couldn't bring herself to rely on her subordinates because she thinks too highly of herself. If she didn't want to ask me, why call me in? There are plenty of other employees. Why summon me specifically? Her pride is Everest-sized, and that's not a compliment. She's been harsh on those around her, so it's likely she couldn't bring herself to ask questions, which is why she called me, someone who had already left the company. But there seemed to be another reason too. Your way of speaking sounds so sarcastic. It had to be you, no one else, she said. Being relied on by Mila in such situations isn't pleasing. If she was going to rely on me, she should have just asked directly instead of letting me go. Why did it have to be me? I asked her calmly. Deep down, I just wanted to leave as soon as possible. I wished she would get to the point without beating around the bush, All the employees said they didn't understand the meaning of these documents. Maya looked desperate. It wasn't just Mila. Even the other employees didn't understand. I was surprised by this fact. No one else but me could take over this work. Mela must have realized how much she usually looked down on her employees. She never noticed their hard work. What she valued most was educational background. She probably never cared about who was doing what kind of work, whether as a department head or even as a person. I lost my temper. So you called me back to this company because only I can understand it. Mila was hitting the desk, angry, even though this was all due to her usual negligence. Programming can be learned by adults if they put their mind to it. Some things require years of experience, but the basics should be understandable. Mila doesn't try to learn on her own and relies entirely on me. It's astonishing how she looks down on others, but when push comes to shove, she clings to them. Without me, the company's programming would be completely incapacitated. Did Mila even know my role in the company? I started to doubt it. She seemed only interested in herself, so she probably didn't know what I was doing, which is why she so easily took my job away using my education as an excuse. I'm sure the company was greatly inconvenienced during that period, likely suffering significant losses. But Mila didn't notice because she didn't know what my job entailed. I decided to ask her directly. Did you know what I was doing in the company? She immediately shook her head. It was just as I thought. I had no interest in what a middle school grad was doing. That's only natural, isn't it? Her defiance was incredibly infuriating, but I was no longer associated with this company, and dropping a bombshell now might just be fair game. Mila would be floored if she knew this. Suddenly, the situation started to feel amusing. It looked like I wouldn't be leaving the company premises for a while. I found myself enjoying the thought of striking back at Mila. I was in charge of all the company's programming. This was an undeniable fact. With years of experience, I managed the programming for the company. I was trusted by my peers and had many tasks that only I could handle. That's why I found my work fulfilling and wanted to stay with the company for a long time. Mila destroyed all of that. If I'm not needed, I'm the type to back down without any regrets. It's better for everyone if I'm in a place where I'm needed. So, I thought there was no longer any value for me here. I had made peace with that decision, and it hasn't changed. As expected, Maya looked like she was about to collapse when she heard my story. No way? You? You? The sheer volume of her voice took me by surprise, so much so that I was startled. It clearly showed how little attention she'd been paying inside the company. There was a mountain of work that only I could handle, but you didn't notice, did you? Mila nodded firmly. No wonder things went downhill after I joined the team. To think it was all because of you. It's infuriating. Mila always tries to pin the blame on someone else. It's not my fault. It's hers for taking my work away. Would any of this have happened if Mila hadn't become the department head in the first place? So, you didn't realize how crucial my work was to the company. I pressed, cornering her with my words. She yelled back, "You didn't say a word about it." And to think that nobody else knew either. I wondered if she was losing her mind. She probably didn't want to admit she'd done something wrong, especially since she made a mess of things the moment she became department head and caused the company to lose money. I decided to ask around about a few employees who knew a bit about programming, but Mila came out with something outrageous. I thought they were all incompetent dropouts, so I fired them all. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't help but yell at the sheer awfulness of it. But since she's no longer my boss, there's no need to hold back. Besides, I'm older and have much more experience from my previous job. I don't want to be lectured by a department head who knows nothing about the work I do. Why are you yelling all of a sudden? You're one of my incompetent subordinates, aren't you? She snapped, questioning my attitude. But being yelled at by someone like her doesn't scare or bother me anymore. I just want to talk back to an ignorant and incompetent department head. She should fully realize her own disgrace. She's the least suitable person for this company, and she needs to reflect on the foolish things she's done. However, Mela resisted more than I expected. You've been looking down on me all along, haven't you? You did this on purpose because I wasn't aware of your work, didn't you? I shook my head instinctively. There's no benefit in framing someone like Mela. Besides, I thought I was on top of everything at work, so it's Mela who's at fault. But I didn't get a chance to fight back. Your silence must mean it's true, huh? You want to put all the blame on me, she accused. It's not that I'm silent by choice. Mela has been going on a monologue, completely disregarding others. With the way she talks, I don't think anyone can get a word in edgewise. That's probably why the employees she fired couldn't resist and ended up quitting. As someone who was also fired, I couldn't help but feel a lot of sympathy. While I was sighing, Mela came back with more retaliation. You think you're so important, but you're mistaken. Isn't she the one who's mistaken? I've never thought of myself as important, and that's better than her way of thinking. I finally got a chance to talk back, but it seemed like my words didn't reach her ears. Isn't it true that the whole mess started because you never spoke up in the first place? And yet, I'm the one who's been living a nightmare. This person always wants to blame someone else. If you had explained the job from the start, I wouldn't have fired you, she said. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After all the times I've been belittled, now this. The company's loss is my loss too. And it all happened after I became the department head. Maya looked down and sighed. In the end, she only thinks about what's a loss for her. I feel foolish for even momentarily hoping that Mela recognized my work. If it had been beneficial for her, I would have been fired and simply bid farewell. Life just doesn't go smoothly, does it? Just my luck to become the department head at this time. Now Mila began to limit her bad luck. Because I became the department head, I had to deal with a middle school grad. This has taken a toll on my mental health. How are you going to take responsibility for this? She screamed. She seemed like a monster in human form. It's a nightmare that someone like her could become a department head. Getting yelled at out of nowhere sure is startling. I couldn't help but retort to Mila, even though now seemed like the worst time to rub her the wrong way. I couldn't contain my anger toward Mela. What do you know? Do you have any idea what I've gone through as a department head? From my perspective, Mila seemed quite satisfied with her work. Her subordinates always complied, and the employees she wanted to fire were at her mercy. It was like the company was subject to Mila's dictatorship. The moment things started going south, everything became a source of dissatisfaction for her. Then, out of the blue, Mela made an absurd suggestion. You should just come back to the company. Then everything will work out, right? What? After all the bullying and hurt she caused, now she says I should come back. Who would agree to such a ridiculous proposition? For the first time in a long while, I found myself shouting from the bottom of my heart. My own reaction took me by surprise. If I don't keep myself in check, I might end up just like Mela, a monstrous person. Why are you suddenly screaming? You're giving me a fright, Mela asked, her tone only making me angrier. The one who's lost their mind is you, isn't it? I blurted out. I felt utterly pathetic, but no matter what I said, I had no intention of returning to the company. It was time to speak my mind fully. I'm no longer under Mila's thumb, and I don't care if I'm disliked anymore. Why are you shouting again? Mila's condescension only fueled my resolve. I will never return to the company, no matter what you say. Why not? I'm telling you, it's okay to come back, she said, still patronizing. It's because you're there. Besides, the company doesn't need me anymore. I'm saying I'll let you come back, and you're upset with me. She had no clue what she'd done wrong. You judged employees solely on their educational background and disrupted the harmony within the company. I fired back. I disrupted the company's harmony. Maya looked defensive, but I wasn't done. Her actions were serious. She unilaterally fired employees who didn't finish high school, just like me. Many of them were young with their futures ahead of them, and she crushed those futures. I couldn't forgive her for that. I thought you were fired because you understood the meaning of programming, she said, trying to twist the narrative. Bringing that up again, I wasn't backing down. I'll even retract calling you just a middle school grad if you come back. But what's said can't be unsaid. Words can't be taken back, nor can the damage they cause. Had you finally understood how I felt? I asked, but I knew the answer. There's no way I could understand that, she said, showing no sign of remorse. It was time for the final blow. I've already secured a job at a major corporation, I announced. At the mention of the company's name, Mila's face went pale. When did you manage to get into such a big company? She stammered. I laughed heartily. Ever since you started harassing me, I've been visiting this corporation several times. They happily hired me after seeing my years of programming experience. I'll be starting there after I leave this company, and they're even willing to wait until then. It's a company at the forefront of programming in Japan, and I'm confident I can advance my career there. I successfully secured a job, so I have no more business here, I stated coldly. How can someone like you, a middle school grad, get a job at such a big company? Mila was furious, insisting it was impossible. Oh, I thought we weren't using the phrase middle school grad anymore. You really are incompetent, aren't you? Incompetent, she repeated. I nodded. You don't try to understand your employees at all, which makes you an incompetent department head. Of course, you're also dragging the company down. I've never encountered such a terrible department head since I started working. You're the first, and hopefully the last. Incompetent, she muttered. Anyway, I said, I will never return. And with that, I left the company. Dealing with Mila any longer would have driven me insane, so I couldn't wait to get out of there as quickly as possible. Later, I heard that Mila ended up managing all the programming alone, but since she never really understood it, the company's management rapidly deteriorated. It seems the employees collectively blamed her, and with her high pride, she couldn't bring herself to apologize. She eventually chose to resign on her own. It was all her doing, so I can't feel bad about what happened to her. Having secured a job at a new company, I'm now living a fulfilling life. The employees are kind, the environment is welcoming, and there are many programming geniuses here, allowing me to strive and improve. I'm once again reassured that joining this company was the right decision, and I wholeheartedly want to continue doing my best here. My wife agreed to the divorce without hesitation, and before I could process it, the divorce papers arrived at my doorstep while I was stationed overseas. Shocked, I immediately called my wife, Lucy, who was adamant about the decision. That's right, she said coldly. I'll be seeking a substantial amount of alimony. It's your fault for constantly neglecting our family. To my dismay, my beloved daughter, Hazel, chimed in, That's correct, Daddy. You have to take responsibility. Hearing Hazel's side with Lucy deeply wounded me. This will make our lives easier, Lucy added, almost sounding like she relished in tormenting me. Little did she know, I had a plan. To swiftly obtain a divorce, move abroad, and transfer everything into her name. My name is George, and I'm a 55-year-old salesman currently leading the sales department at a prominent trading company. Much like my father, who also worked in sales, I spent a significant portion of my childhood overseas, which allowed me to become fluent in 5 languages. After high school, I moved in with my grandparents and attended a prestigious university. Following in my father's footsteps, I joined a trading company, aspiring to become a globe-trotting salesman. I had numerous employment options, but I chose my current organization due to its active involvement in global trade. Despite obstacles like the economic downturn following the bubble's burst and the stock market crash during the Lehman crisis, I managed to achieve remarkable results. The recent pandemic severely impacted the global economy, but we're gradually recovering. Overseas business trips have resumed, and as the sales head, I frequently travel for crucial negotiations. Another trip, huh? Lucy remarked sarcastically as I packed for my next journey. This one might take a while, I responded calmly, and I'm counting on you to take care of the house. Lucy smirked, turned away, and left the room. After finishing my packing, I headed to the living room for a break, only to overhear Lucy's discontented voice. He's making a big show of packing by himself. So passive-aggressive. Well, it's better if he doesn't need our help, isn't it? Hazel replied in a conciliatory tone. I sighed, took a few steps back, and cleared my throat before entering the room. Oh, Dad, are you all ready? Hazel asked, reaching out to me, but Lucy remained silent, sulking as she turned away. I'm ready to go, I declared. Early departure is on the cards tomorrow. This journey will be a lengthy one. I prepared some coffee and returned to my quarters. Lucy and I have occupied separate bedrooms for almost 2 decades. She held seniority over me at the company, working the front desk. With her captivating appearance and effortless charm, she was the center of attention. Men from all corners flocked to her, desperate to capture her affection. Hailing from abroad, I lacked experience with women. I preferred the company of my high school and university friends, never having a romantic partner. To Lucy, I must have seemed like a mere child, undeserving of her time. Yet, as a newcomer, I gained recognition as a promising prospect, inadvertently becoming a sort of celebrity. One day, when I visited the reception, Lucy covertly handed me a hairpin with her phone number inscribed. Most would have been elated, but I was so engrossed in my work that I could not fathom the company's star bestowing such attention upon me. Thus, I disregarded her gesture. On her way home from work, she unexpectedly confronted me and insisted we go to a restaurant. While sipping her wine, she directly asked, "George, do you have a girlfriend?" Feeling nervous, I replied, "No, I'm too focused on learning the job right now." "Bah, you're so serious. But I've heard the executives have high hopes for you. You're talented and multilingual. A true rising star," she said, gazing at me with admiring eyes. I tried to downplay it, saying, "Speaking multiple languages is common here." "And your humility, too. You're truly remarkable," she remarked. Her words didn't particularly move me, but they seemed to inspire something in her. After several more shared meals, we somehow found ourselves in an approved relationship at the company. As my business trips abroad became more frequent, Lucy was always delighted. "It's amazing you're taking solo international trips after just 1 year. You're definitely executive material," she'd say, her eyes shining with pride. In time, I grew to genuinely love Lucy, and after 3 years, I proposed. "I'm so thrilled," she said. "I'll be by your side, ready to uplift and back you up," she'd assured, determined to be a steadfast companion. After our marriage, Lucy resigned from her job. Several of her male coworkers expressed grief and resentment towards me, but by then, I had earned respect in the sales department, and no one dared to voice their complaints directly. Soon after our wedding, we discovered that Lucy was pregnant. We moved quickly, but Lucy was severely affected by morning sickness and found it challenging to manage household chores. I did my best to assist, but nothing I did seemed to satisfy her. The kind Lucy who used to praise me during our courtship had vanished. I kept telling myself that her behavior was solely due to the pregnancy, hoping she would revert to her former self once the morning sickness had passed. However, the reality was not that straightforward. When Hazel was born, the nights were arduous. Lucy would often say, "At least take care of her when you're home," and leave me with a crying Hazel after I returned late at night. On the few days I had off, I spent my time catching up on cleaning and laundry. Being young, I believed that postpartum women were delicate and required gentle treatment, as my parents from abroad had taught me. Despite my exhaustion, I persevered in supporting my family. Lucy often delegated household duties and childcare to me, but she never let me slack off at work. Thankfully, Hazel remained healthy, avoiding any major illnesses. Time passed quickly, and before long, nearly 30 years had gone by, yet my relationship with Lucy had significantly cooled. Nonetheless, I take pride in having given my all for my loved ones. When I was promoted to department head at my company 5 years ago, we even moved to a high-rise apartment, as Lucy had wished. After all, a department head at a prestigious firm is expected to reside in such a setting. For a time, Lucy seemed content, and we coexisted harmoniously. Regrettably, this peace was short-lived, and Lucy's attitude once again turned icy. She was willing to handle Hazel's chores, but refused to take on my share. The misery of performing household tasks with my weary, aging body was indescribable. Thoughts of divorce crossed my mind numerous times, but being constantly occupied and having Hazel nearby deterred me from following through. She speaks ill of me where I can overhear, casting unflattering remarks in my direction. All right then, I'm off. I muttered quietly in the empty hallway the next early morning and left the house. For me now, work is where I feel most purposeful. After successfully completing the travel procedures and boarding the plane, I closed my eyes. My body felt heavy because I couldn't fall asleep easily last night. As I closed my eyes, yesterday's conversation between Lucy and Hazel echoed in my mind. Ha! Acting as if you've done nothing wrong with that holier-than-thou attitude. That's what I can't stand. Lucy started complaining as soon as I stepped out of the living room with my coffee. Well, it's because of him working hard that we can enjoy our life, isn't it? I really wish you'd try to keep him in a good mood a bit more. Hazel, with a laugh in her voice, tried to calm Lucy down. When Hazel was young, she was attached to me, always calling Thad Dad. But as she hit puberty, she started to rebel against me. On the other hand, she seemed to gravitate towards Lucy, who wasn't much of a caretaker, but was fashionable and youthful. Lucy, indifferent to parenting, must find Hazel, who speaks sweetly, a more manageable partner compared to me, who can be nagging, especially when it comes to expensive decisions like high school or college enrollment. Hazel, more cunning than Lucy, cleverly navigated between the two of us to benefit herself. Initially troubled by Hazel's rebellious attitude, I was pleased when she became docile, but a certain event made me realize her true nature was twisted. I used to criticize Hazel for not finding a job after graduating from college, calling her activities bridal training while she just hung out. But now, I don't even feel like saying anything. Dad, do you know any good guys at your company? I wish to find someone reliable and wonderful like you, Hazel would occasionally say when I was home, almost like she was flattering me. Well, if I see someone promising, I'll introduce him to you. I'd respond with a smile, but my heart had grown cold. In the end, Hazel probably just wants someone convenient to leech off, just like Lucy does. One victim in this family is enough, so I've been dodging the issue, pretending to look around. You know, he never introduces any men to me. I'm already 28. I want to get married soon and become a graceful stay-at-home wife like you, Mom, Hazel would say. She's already in the midst of her elegant bridal training, isn't she? Well, boring guys like him are just a drag. Wouldn't recommend? They giggled together. But hey, if you want to have fun, there are plenty of ways to do that, right? Ah, Mom, really? Saying that in front of your daughter? They burst into uncontrollable laughter. I entered the room without making a sound, unnoticed by them. Ah, what am I going to do with those two? I thought. But they're my family after all. I drank my coffee, feeling a sense of emptiness. The coffee was too bitter, keeping me from falling asleep easily. Before I knew it, I had arrived at my destination in Bangkok. It seems I had fallen asleep while deep in thought. Leaving the plane, I felt a sense of refreshment, a stark contrast to the heaviness I felt when leaving home. At the airport, I met up with the local staff who came to pick me up and was guided to the branch office. There, we discussed the details of this transaction. Thailand is a vital hub in Southeast Asia for our company, holding significant importance. On the final day of my trip, after smoothly progressing through negotiations and successfully concluding the contract, all that was left was my return home. A letter from Japan arrived at the hotel where I was staying. Why would they send it by mail when a call or email from the company would suffice, especially since it was addressed to me personally? Curious, I opened it to find a single piece of paper inside. Unfolding it, I saw that it was a divorce paper, signed and stamped by Lucy. Sending the papers all the way to Bangkok. Couldn't she have waited until I got back to Japan? Feeling frustrated, I decided to call Lucy anyway. Oh, how unusual. Did the post arrive by any chance? Lucy asked, her tone dripping with meaning. Yeah, the divorce papers did. What's this all about? I asked calmly. Lucy grinned and laughed. What do you think? I want a divorce. You've been neglecting the family so much that I've finally run out of patience, she declared triumphantly. Is that so? I responded. Lucy just laughed scornfully. I'm serious. Even our daughter agrees with the divorce, she rattled on, not giving me a chance to speak. So there you go. I'll be taking a hefty alimony. Thank you very much. It's all your fault for always disregarding the family. In the background, I could hear Hazel's voice. That's right, it's all Dad's fault. You better take responsibility, she said, berating me. This will make our lives easier. As I listened to their barrage of insults, Lucy burst out laughing. Come on, why so silent? Shocked at being dumped. Maybe he's crying over there. I quietly told them, understood. Let's get a divorce. I'll give you everything I own. I promise. I'll also take the savings. You have no complaints, right? After all, I've supported you all this time, so you should be grateful and hand it over, Lucy said, and I could almost see her smirking over the phone. Understood. Let's proceed with that, I said. As I heard their triumphant laughter, I hung up the phone. Well, things are about to get busy, I muttered to myself and decided to get moving right away. Upon returning to Japan, I immediately submitted the divorce papers and completed all the necessary procedures. Feeling a sense of relief I hadn't felt in 30 years, I cracked open a beer, leaned back in the chair I'd brought out onto the deck, and enjoyed the pleasant breeze. A hum escaped me involuntarily. Then my cell phone rang loudly. Who's that? I thought, picking up the phone. Lucy's name flashed on the screen. Hello. I answered, and immediately Lucy's hysterical screaming blasted through the line. What do you think you're doing? She yelled, her voice so loud it distorted the sound. What do you mean? What do you think you're doing? What's going on? I responded coolly. For a moment, all I could hear was her heavy breathing, as if she was out of breath. Something about a certificate of content arrived. She started speaking again, still panting. Just as it says, due to the divorce, your infidelity has been uncovered, so I'm claiming compensation. It's not just that, is it? I said, my voice steady. Lucy's voice trembled. Yeah, it includes the DNA test results that Hazel isn't my daughter, right? There's also evidence you tricked me into raising Hazel, so I'm asking for the return of all the child-rearing expenses I've incurred. If you're not willing, we'll go to court. But I can't pay something like $300,000, she stammered. Then why not have Hazel's real father pay? Seems fair, doesn't it? What were you talking about? She stuttered. Don't play dumb. I know everything. All of it, I said in a low voice, making Lucy gasp in fear. But he doesn't have that kind of money anymore. His ex-wife took everything. The savings, the retirement fund, everything. Her feeble excuse was as good as admitting Hazel had a different father. I was exasperated by Lucy's usual foolishness. It's the former Executive Vice President Brown, right? Lucy gasped on the other end of the phone. I only found out about this recently myself. Surprised me too, to think that our matchmaker at our wedding was actually your lover, Lucy. Lucy groaned, but then, as if realizing something, asked, "Did you tell Brown's wife about this?" I was impressed Lucy caught on for once. That's right. You catch on quick. I gathered all the evidence and informed his wife. All this meddling is too much, she said, grinding her teeth, but there was nothing more Lucy could do. His wife was furious about the years of betrayal. Their son is a lawyer, and through his connections, they hired a top-notch attorney. They managed to take almost all of his assets, didn't they? I added. Speaking of which, his wife mentioned she was going to sue you for damages as well. What did you say? Lucy screamed, and then there was the sound of rustling papers. This. It seemed she had also received a certified letter from Brown's wife, demanding $50,000 in damages. I can't pay that. Wow, that's $350,000 in total. Impressive. Good luck with that. Hey, if you're short on cash, you could always sell some land. Oh, that's right. The deed is in my name now, isn't it? Lucy's voice brightened at my reminder. That's right. It's all done. So I'm going to hang up now. After hanging up, I couldn't help but burst into laughter. About a year ago, I accidentally learned of Lucy's trickery and the truth about Hazel. As for my former boss, the ex-executive vice president Brown, I learned his secret when I was supposed to dine with a client at a restaurant. The client was running late by about an hour, and while waiting, I decided to get some coffee. As I turned around, I saw Lucy and Brown entering together. Brown was my boss, and Lucy, being from the same company, knew him well, especially since he was the matchmaker at our wedding. We've continued to send gifts for mid-year and year-end traditions without fail, but the way Lucy and Brown were together that time felt more intimate than just acquaintances. There was a strangely clingy vibe. I didn't say anything and immediately turned around, making sure they didn't notice me. Conveniently, they were seated at a table across from mine, separated by a pillar. I couldn't see them, but in the quiet restaurant, I could barely hear their voices. Lucy, it's been a while. Yes, I thought we could see each other more since you retired, but you never get in touch. Lucy's voice sounded petulant. My bad. When I was working, any excuse would do, but now that I'm at home, it's harder to find a reason to go out. I was confused. Brown must have retired last year, so why this sudden familiarity? Lucy's tone was so different, completely unlike the aloof attitude she usually showed me. How's Hazel? Is she doing well? Lucy asked, her voice warm. Yes, she's really into K-pop idols lately, making a fuss about going to their concerts, Brown replied. Hearing Hazel's name, I couldn't help but listen more closely. Is that so? No prospective husbands in sight. Lucy continued, Not at all. I keep telling George to introduce her to some promising young men, but that incompetent fool can't bring a single decent suitor, she spat out. Did she just call me incompetent? Brown laughed lightly, mocking me as well. That's to be expected of him. He's not the type to think ahead. Raising someone else's child for 30 years without a hint of suspicion just shows how oblivious he is. Someone else's child? That phrase kept echoing in my mind, leaving me panicked. It was right after George proposed to you, so I let my guard down, Brown continued. But it's good George never doubted it. He believed she was his own. They laughed together, joyously. I really want to tell everyone she's my daughter. My wife and I only had sons, so having a daughter later in life is special, Brown added. I'm pleased to hear you say that. Hazel knows you're her real father and is proud of it, Lucy responded. Is that so? If she wants anything, make sure she tells me. I want my precious daughter to have the best, Brown said. Let's go dine at a fancy restaurant together sometime soon, Lucy suggested, her tone wheedling, but I was far beyond caring. Hazel knows her real father and is proud of it. My vision darkened, and cold sweat broke out. I felt faint, barely recalling the rest of their conversation. Somehow, I managed to leave the restaurant unnoticed and called my client to cancel our meeting, claiming I wasn't feeling well. The client apologized, concerned about my health. Strangers are far kinder, I found myself muttering. I've been betrayed by my former boss, my wife, and my daughter all along. I don't remember how I got home, but when I came to, I was lying on my bed. Neither Lucy nor Hazel had come home yet. As I stared up at the ceiling, I swore I would uncover the truth about Lucy and Brown. Hiring a private investigator didn't take long to confirm my suspicions. They were involved in an affair. Worse, it started even before she married me. Talking to someone who had retired, I learned their affair was quite well known back then. Then came the DNA test. When Hazel came home drunk and fell asleep in the living room, I secretly took a saliva sample. I felt utterly miserable, doubting the paternity of the daughter I had once cherished. But now, realizing she was just as deceitful as Lucy, my anger replaced any lingering affection. The results confirmed it. She wasn't my biological daughter. As I looked at the evidence of Lucy and Brown's infidelity and the DNA test results, I laughed. It was a dry, hollow laugh. I'll use this evidence to drag them through the mud, I swore to myself. A year went by as I waited for the right moment. When Lucy lied about going to a hot spring with friends and instead went out with Brown, I didn't miss my chance. I contacted Brown's wife, revealing their affair with the evidence I had gathered. She turned pale as she examined the proof, but promised to fully cooperate with me. With the help of a top-notch lawyer and her son, we stripped Brown of everything. He was cast out, just as his wife had promised. "It's your turn now." I remember her words when I reported back to her 3 days later. Then Lucy called me again, her voice frantic. "What's the meaning of this?" she yelled. "What do you mean? What's the meaning of this?" "Maybe you should expand your vocabulary," I replied, exasperated. Lucy breathed heavily in frustration. "You transferred the deed to that land, that remote mountain. It's practically worthless. I talked to a real estate agent, and they said I'd lose money selling it. The maintenance fees and taxes are a nightmare." I calmly replied to her shrill protests. "You said you wanted everything I owned. I just made your wish come true. Thanks, by the way. That land from Grandpa was a burden, so you taking it off my hands really helped me out." After my sarcastic thanks, Lucy probably fell silent from sheer anger. Then I heard a voice shout, "Mom, it's a disaster." "Wait, Dad, is that you?" The call switched to video chat, and Lucy's face looked furious while Hazel's was pale with shock. "I just went to the bank to check our account, Mom. Calm down. There's less than $100 left." Lucy's jaw dropped. "Dad, what's going on?" Hazel glared at me. "There's no money left because you all spent it," I replied calmly. Lucy glared at me, raising her voice. "Take a good look. My paycheck gets deposited, right? But almost every month, it just disappears. And what about the bonuses? They went straight to your overseas trips, designer bags, and spa treatments." "No way. That can't be true." But as Hazel looked at the bank statements, her expression said it all. She was dumbfounded. "You know, George," Lucy continued, "it's your job to take care of your wife and daughter. Yet, you haven't managed to save a single penny. You're utterly incompetent." I met her harsh words with a cold response. "I haven't bought anything for myself since we got married. Everything was for you and Hazel. And what did I get in return? Betrayal and mockery. Why should I satisfy someone who treats me like that?" Behind Lucy, I noticed Brown peeking out. It seemed he'd been there all along. Kicked out by his wife, he must have ended up at Lucy's place. "George, long time, no see," Brown said, trying to sound calm, though he looked more disheveled than before. "Long time no see, Mr. Brown," I replied firmly. His face twisted as I continued. "After betraying people for so long, now you're kicked out, with no home or money. What do you want from me?" Brown forced a smile. "What's the matter, George? That's not like you. We're talking about the wife you've been with for 30 years and the daughter you cherish. Stop being petty and help them out, will you?" His words made my blood boil. "Help? Why should I? Why don't you help Lucy and Hazel if you care so much?" Brown shrugged sadly. "George, I'm just an old man now. My relationship with Lucy wasn't what you think. She was just helping me out. So please, with a generous heart, help Lucy and Hazel. And me too, in our time of need." I watched him, realizing he might have always been this shameless, but it was only now becoming clear. Just then, Hazel cried out, almost screaming, "Dad, your daughter's in trouble. We can't even afford food. You stopped the credit card, remember? It's been unusable since yesterday." "Then, Hazel, maybe you should work and support your real father," I replied coldly. "What are you talking about? You're my father." Hazel shot back, her eyes fierce and determined. "Didn't you say you'd rather have a rich executive as your father than someone incompetent like me? If that's the case, you should cherish that father you're so proud of," I said, trying to guide her to the truth. Hazel exploded. "What are you talking about? Sure, I heard he was rich and had a fancy degree, but now he's just a broke, jobless old man. I don't need someone who can't even buy me anything." She started stomping and yelling, while Brown beside her looked petrified. "Right, you transferred all your assets to Lucy, didn't you? Then this house belongs to her," she said. "We could sell it and get a significant amount of money." Panicked, Brown blurted out, "Yes, that's right. It's a high-rise luxury apartment. It might fetch around $1 million, right, Lucy?" Hazel's anger vanished as she suddenly smiled. "That's amazing. We're set for a while." Brown turned to me cheerfully. "George, my apologies, but we're going to sell this condo you bought and use the money for living expenses and alimony payments." I enlightened him with a simple fact. "What are you talking about? This condo was never in my name, so it doesn't belong to Lucy." Lucy was shocked. "But that's not what you promised. You said you'd give me all your assets." I smiled. "Yeah, that's why I transferred the ownership of those mountains to you. Plus, I gave you the furniture and appliances you bought for your hobbies, even though they were bought with my card. Those mountains are nothing but a nuisance," Lucy exclaimed, slumping to the floor. "Then whose name is this condo under?" Hazel demanded. At that moment, a man popped up beside me, causing Hazel and the others to scream. "This is Kenny, my childhood friend and current employer." "What employer? What are you talking about?" Lucy asked, bewildered. "I quit my job and am now in Bangkok, Thailand," I explained. "Kenny's been running a company here and had invited me before. I never mentioned it because I knew you'd never approve. The first thing I thought after getting divorced and becoming free was that now I could work with Kenny." "But what about this condo?" Lucy pressed on. "Kenny took over. Long time no see, Lucy. You might not remember me. We only met at the wedding. I bought this condo as an investment. I didn't want to rent it to just anyone, and when I heard George was looking for a place, I told him he could rent it cheaply while saving up to build his dream house after retirement. So that's why the condo is Kenny's," I added, watching as Lucy and the others looked disappointed, their plans to sell it thwarted. Kenny continued cheerfully, "You'll probably hear from the real estate agent, but please move out by the end of this month. I rented it to George and his family, but now that you're divorced, Lucy, you're a stranger. And Hazel wasn't really his daughter, right? So I have no reason to rent the place to you." Lucy and the others started shouting at each other, hurling insults. It all stemmed from Mom making Dad angry. I told you to handle it better, I said. First, Brown told me to trick George into thinking Hazel was his child when I got pregnant. If you're going to deceive, at least keep it up until the end. You got caught because you were sloppy. It's your fault. The argument had become unpleasant and unbearable. If you want to debate, do it later. Pack your belongings now. I'm ending this call, I stated firmly. The trio glared at me. Then Lucy cried out, George, it was all a misunderstanding. It was an error. I only love you. When I was younger, this man deceived me. Hazel was a mistake, and I don't need her anymore. Let's pretend the divorce never happened. I'm a victim too, so let's go back to how things were. Please, I was just lonely and foolish. Hazel snatched the phone from Lucy. Dad, you're the only dad I have. You've always taken care of me. Don't listen to Mom. Let's live together, just the two of us. I'll show you your grandchildren someday. Can I come live with you too? Immediately, Brown chimed in. George, Bang is an excellent choice. Southeast Asia is booming. I'd love to work at that company too. Despite my age, my achievements speak for themselves. Please introduce me to your friend Kenny. The trio argued over the phone, trading insults back and forth. Kenny and I watched in disbelief, feeling overwhelmed. Finally, I quietly hung up the phone. The past decade had been a grueling journey for Kenny. With empathy, he acknowledged the challenges I had confronted in cutting ties with those who had caused me distress. As we clinked our chilled beers, a sense of relief washed over us, toasting to the newfound freedom that lay ahead. The real estate agent's directive had compelled Lucy and her companions to vacate the condo, despite their efforts to remain. Regrettably, her family had refused to provide them shelter, leaving them to wander between internet cafes. Brown's circumstances were even more dire, as his wife's powerful connections had obstructed his ability to secure employment or lodging. Ultimately, his desperation led to an unfortunate outburst, resulting in his arrest. As I reflected on these events, a sense of vindication emerged, tempered by the realization of the profound personal toll that betrayal and adversity can take. Ashamed, Lucy and Hazel vanished from the city without a trace, rumors swirling about them living in seclusion in the distant mountains. Since then, I've joined Kenny's company, and our sales have steadily climbed. The people here are kind, filling the void left by Lucy and Hazel. Sharing a beer with Kenny after work, discussing the business, and reminiscing has become my greatest joy, despite my fatigue. I'm deeply grateful for this change. Reflecting back, I see I'd wasted time due to misjudging people. But those lessons have taught me to treasure the wonderful company I now have. In the years ahead, I aim to cherish my relationships and time even more.